Boise Airport Commissioners meeting. May we take the roll call, please?
Carlson,
Yes, here.
Vasconcelos,
Yes, here by Zoom.
Loesiger, here. Mancolis, absent.
No, here by Zoom.
I am here by Zoom.
Sailor,
I do not see him online yet. He said he would join remotely.
Walker,
I do not see that he is here today.
and Westerberg.
Here. Thank you. Having a quorum, we'll proceed with our commissioners meeting. First item on the agenda is approval of the minutes from the Airport Commission meeting of August 4, 2021.
Madam Chairman,
Yes,
having read the minutes, I found that they are authentic and I would like to move they are approved.
I second.
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Next item on the agenda, Director's Report, Rebecca Hupp, please.
All right, thank you for being here in person and online. And congratulations to our chair, Carlson. We're excited to have you in this new role. I will go ahead and start the director's report. We do have some runway closures that have happened. We did have a disabled aircraft on July 10th. And then July 12th and 14th, we've had some routine maintenance. Another disabled aircraft, I think both of those were flat tires, July 18th. And then starting on July 19th, we started that taxiway Gulf project. Councilor Clegg, I did put you down here today.
Oh, okay.
We're just switching things up a little.
Jesus. Sorry for being late. I had something else that took longer than I thought.
That's okay, it happens. So we are expecting that 10-8 right, 2-8 left will be closed for August for the taxiway Gulf project. And then today we are switching over runway closures. My chair is not working correctly, sorry. All right. So taxiway Gulf is in process, construction on both sides of the runway. And we're planning 10 right, 45 calendar days. I think that this is pretty much the same thing that we talked about, but again, we're switching the runway closures over this afternoon. Upcoming bids, we've talked about this. This will be the public garage and the employee garage. We're gonna bid that in September. We had initially thought we would bid it in October, but there were some things that came up related to the old landfill that is under the existing parking lot, and DEQ wanted us to do just a little bit more due diligence on some of the environmental stuff, so there are no unknowns as we go into the bid. We opened our service animal relief area and the lactation room. The family restroom is complete. So those are new facilities and amenities that are available in the terminal. And we talked last time about the need to expand the security checkpoint, because even though we expanded it in 2019 during the peak hours, our checkpoint demand exceeds capacity. And this is a initial concept drawing of what the new checkpoint will look like. TSA already has equipment added, and you can see this wall here is bumped out into this exit lane. We used to have 3 exit doors here. Now we're down to 2. But this allows us to give additional space. And then the concept is to extend the queuing and possibly to take this store out and put queuing here. That's not a final decision, but that's conceptually an option. And then also back here, there was some training rooms and some spaces that allows us to extend this and just gives us a little bit better throughput and efficiency at the checkpoint. And so that would be, the vision is that that would be done by next year, by next summer.
Rebecca, thank you. When you say move where there's 3 doors, is that the wall that has
The fish on it,
yeah.
yes,
So are you working with Arts and History to get that moved? as you
yes,
noted? Okay.
yes. We are working with Arts and History to relocate that. And we just had a conversation with them about that earlier this week, in fact, and they said it does not need to be on a curved wall, so we're gonna look at options
Okay, okay.
for that. And also, we are going to, at some point in the near future, in the next 2 to 3 months, see about doing a joint meeting between the Airport Commission and the Art Commission to go over the art master plan and what we're thinking about for art projects as part of our upcoming expansion. So that will be coming. So thank you for that segue.
And Councilmember Bajan is listening online. He was unable to be here this morning, and I think I guess there is our public listening, and I don't know if he had the actual Zoom, but anyway.
Okay. All right. Very good. So new service began on our Pullman to Moscow route, and that's operated by Alaska. It started on August 18th, and it's 5 days per week. And that is being supported by the university up there. So July employments, we got our official numbers. We know that 2021 has been a slower year, but July passenger travel was up over 10% over 2019.
Wow.
So it was an all-time record month in the history of the Boise airport. Yeah. Wow, that's what we said when we saw all those passengers coming through here and wanting to park and get through screening and pick passengers up. So passengers are up 69% over 2020, but they're still down 20%, 19% through over 2019. So this is our historic monthly passengers, just to kind of give you a feel for where we are. You can see May and June and July, we've had a pretty good recovery. Incidentally, August looks good. So far, the first couple weeks in August have been good. The last week in August continues to be strong, although down a little bit. We obviously won't have August numbers for a couple of weeks yet when the airlines report them to us.
Do we know the load capacity on the planes? I mean, we've added a lot of flights, so with this, are we still at a really high? Are we still getting a lot of folks on the plane, or are the planes a little more empty?
I think
still?
the load factor is a little bit lower than it has been, and I do have some slides where I'm going to talk about load factor, but you have to keep in mind that this is reported, the load factor information that we have is reported quarterly. So even though we're going to look at it, it's already probably dated.
And I asked that because at least it was always my impression we were a little high on that we didn't have enough capacity, and it's probably a better thing that we have a little bit, but.
And I would say that's accurate. That's why airlines keep adding capacity into our market, because there's demand and they can sell the seats. And, you know, when they're looking for opportunities in this environment, that's why they've added service to Boise. But I think our load factor is probably lower than it has been, and it's probably a combination of more service, more flights, more seats available, combined with the pandemic. But I think in this environment, airlines are accepting of a lower capacity and a lower load factor than they probably would have been pre-pandemic. All right, moving on to revenues. The way that this is on my screen, I can't really actually see. See that there? Yeah. Okay. Okay, now that I've changed it. All right, so operating revenue is actually up about 14 or about 4% rather. The outliers, as you can imagine, food and beverage concessions are down, and our terminal concessions are actually up, the retail. So, you know, I think the difference is the staffing that's required for food and beverage versus retail is a little bit different. And so our food and beverage retailer, our food and beverage provider has really struggled with staffing, which is not unique to them here at the airport. It's something that we're seeing throughout our community. And then expenses are up slightly, also about 3%, but nothing substantial. Parking is down Parking expenses are down quite a bit. Fleet is down quite a bit. This is what Councillor Clegg was talking about. This is our capacity and traffic trends. So capacity was down 32%, passengers were down 57%, but this is for the year ended of March 21. So this, we just got in the very beginning of August. So this always lags by about a quarter. So a 28% decrease in our load factor, which is 53. But if you think back to where the rest of the country was in March of 21, this was actually probably pretty good. Comparatively speaking. So these are the top origin and destination markets, our top 20 locations. Again, passenger travel was down substantially at that time. Our market share has not changed substantially, although Alaska has continued to add capacity in our market and gain market share. The rest has been relatively consistent. American, again, partnership with Alaska Airlines, that's continued to grow. Our seats per capita, Boise continues to be very competitive in the seats per capita. And then this is the airfare and the number of passengers. We had more passengers than our peer airports during this time period. And if you remember, we actually changed our peer airports to be larger airports about a year ago. But with the pandemic and the growth in our community, we fared very well in terms of passengers. And then the airfare continues to be very competitive. Year over year comparisons, this was again, as of March, the end of March, we actually had increased 2 flights at that point. Now you'll remember we're actually up to 28 nonstop destinations. We had the smallest decrease in seats year over year, and we also had the lowest percentage decrease in passengers of our peer airports. Forward-looking schedule, this has probably changed because the airlines have gone in and taken some capacity out of their market. But when we look at the seats and the departures compared to 2019, you can see that we were forecasting an increase. And again, this is based at the end of March. Recently, we've seen decreases in capacity, but we are expecting to continue to see strong demand in Boise, at least at this point in time. One thing that coronavirus has taught us is that everything is subject to change. So that concludes the director's report, Madam Chair. I'd be happy to take questions from any members of the commission, either in person or on the Zoom.
Questions?
I have a question, Rebecca. One of the revenue line items was the rental cars. It was up quite a bit. Has the supply corrected as far as the supply and demand for rental cars? I know that people were having a really hard time getting them.
I think that the issue continues. I think we're probably in better shape here in Boise than they are in some places. But I do understand anecdotally that it's still difficult to get a rental car. I would say if you're booking a vacation, I would book your rental car earlier rather than later.
Questions? Anyone on the Zoom? Question?
Yeah, Bill Vasconcelos. First, just a couple of comments. First of all, I think it's excellent that we're expanding that security checkpoint, and the exit area has been a little generous since the beginning. So I think that's a good plan. And secondly, I think the joint meeting between our commission and the Arts Commission is a great idea. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Thank you. Just a real quick comment. El Paso is on as one of our peers. I don't know how much travel there is in between El Paso and Juarez today, but historically, there's been a lot, and of course Juarez is about 2 million people. So it's actually may or may not act as a real pier. So just be aware of that.
Thank you. Others? Rebecca, I have a question about staffing.
Yes.
So I've noticed the last couple meetings, it's a little sparse in here. And just wanted to raise the question. I know as we were looking at the rapid expansion and growth back in 2019, and now as we seem to be coming back on that trajectory, we did look at our overall organizational structure and our staffing, and there were some issues pointed out that would be opportunities to get prepared for growth. I understand we didn't move forward on many of those, and with COVID, I mean, who knows where we would be today, but I'm wondering, as we anticipate now moving into a medium hub, if we should revisit sort of the organizational structure and staffing requirements and make sure we're competitive in our compensation.
I think that's an excellent point. And as I meet with our senior leadership team, we've been doing some strategic planning sessions internally every other month. And we're looking at the projects that are coming up. And just between the couple of parking garages that we have, our routine airfield programs, we will probably have over $1 million of construction happening at the airport in the next year. And that's on top of all of the growth that we're seeing in passengers, operations, the regulatory requirements because of the medium hub status, you know, just the 24-hour nature that we're seeing more and more. You know, the red-eye flights, flights leaving later, coming in earlier, leaving earlier. So we really are not the same airport that we were when I moved here 9 years ago. We're not the same airport that we were even 3 or 5 years ago. And we did that organization assessment 3 years ago now. I want to say it was in 2018, the very beginning of 2019, and it did identify some opportunities for us, and we are executing on a number of those things. So for example, and you mentioned the fact that our staff is not here. They're joining virtually by Zoom.
Okay.
Part of it might be that we're no longer serving cinnamon rolls every Monday for those. And I can't blame them there. But our staff is attending by Zoom. They're all working really hard. There were some positions that we added. Just to recap, one is actually someone who helps Amy. She has over 200 leases, almost 300 leases that she manages for us. We needed to have someone in that role. But if we continue to be aggressive in our development of non-aeronautical property, we will need to probably add someone else. So I think your point is well taken. So when we look at one of the recommendations with the study was to add a new airfield manager, which we did, a program manager, and some of you maybe have met Marcus. He does a great job. He's here. He's probably out on the airfield right now because we're getting ready to do that switch with the runways today. But we added that position, but we've also added 2 more project manager positions because we have $100 million worth of projects and Matt cannot do it on his own. But that's another area, even though we've added substantial resources, we may want to add more. And as we bring these new facilities online, we probably should do an analysis of what it's going to take to operate these facilities. And are there other things that we can do differently? Can we use technology to make us smarter in how we staff the facilities? So those are the questions that we need to answer, but we also, you know, we've added some people. There are some things that we haven't changed. One of the things that we didn't change was we didn't change legal, for example. Our legal representative, which is Kelly, who's fabulous, but she is not at the airport full time. She's still with legal full time and does airport as her primary assignment, but she's not an airport person. And we've had substantial turnover in that role. I think Kelly's the 4th attorney that I've worked with in 9 years. So it's pretty specialized. And I think Kelly could tell you, it's a pretty steep learning curve when you come into the airport and we just throw everything at you. regulatory 300 leases,
Mhm, mhm.
contracts, RFPs, grants. Welcome. Thank you.
Madam Chair. Rebecca, do we have any estimate as to the amount of money the airport will receive from the Federal Infrastructure Act that the Senate has passed and I understand is under review by the House?
I do not have an estimate on that, no. Kathleen, have we heard anything?
No.
I haven't even seen anything in any of our industry bulletins.
No, there's, the consensus is nobody knows yet, so.
Well, it's a matter of observation. I do recall that our two senators patted themselves on the back, explaining that one of the reasons they supported it was the amount of money that the airport in Boise would get.
Well, and we hope that's true, but leaning back to the personnel discussion that Meg brought up in that point, if we receive grants, we have to track and administer it. We have to expend the money on the projects, which means more engineering. You know, it's great to have that financial resource, but then we have to actually have the personnel resources to be able to execute.
That's fine. I just wondered if we had any estimate. Thanks.
Madam Chair.
Yes,
From what I know of the infrastructure bill, there will be more money, but I was anticipating that because we went to medium hub, it might only equal out, probably wouldn't be extra.
Mm.
We'll see. I don't know. I mean, there, details to come, right?
Well, and while we transition to the medium hub and the entitlement funds will decrease from 93% of the project to 83% reimbursement, that's the entitlement funds that we will probably also get discretionary funds, at least in that initial year or 2 years, there's a transition period. So we do have some time.
Okay, good.
But again, with the infrastructure bill, we want to make sure that we have projects that are ready to go. Because if they do this, it has to be shovel ready, it has to be an eligible project. Then we want to make sure that we have projects that fit those requirements. And we need to have the right staff to do that.
any other questions from commissioners? All right. Commissioners' comments. I'm going to start with on Zoom. So can we start with Mayor? Are you there?
Well, good morning and thank you. I apologize for not being there. I just want to say thank you for understanding during this past year has been a weird one with all the surgeries and medical issues I've been dealing with. I'll tell you what, sometimes I just wonder if all my orneriness is coming back to haunt me or something for the many years of being ornery. Anyway, I just want to say thank you. I apologize for my very erratic attendance this year, but I do appreciate Rebecca, you and your staff, everything that's being done, especially in this very difficult time that we find ourselves in. And of course, as we know, just when we think things are starting to maybe get a little better than the Delta variant and whatever else is happening there. But I just want to say thank you for your patience with me. It is an honor to serve on this airport commission. I have learned a lot, and I really appreciate and respect all of you. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Commissioner Vasconcellos.
Yeah, first I'd like to say that this Zoom experience is like 90% better than the first time we tried it. So kudos to whoever is responsible for the technology and getting it to work, because the first time I could hardly hear anything anybody was saying, and today it's been about as good as being there in person, I think. So so that's working really well. I was curious on the animal relief area. Are we going to have increased staffing for that, Rebecca? Or is it going to be handled by the existing crew?
It is handled by our existing crew. It is one more thing for them to do. And there's certain procedures that they have to follow and certain chemicals that they have to use in that area, but they have all been trained. And we are not necessarily hiring we're not hiring people specifically for that. We may have to hire more people as we see more passengers. But we're not hiring people specifically for that. It actually might make it a little bit easier for them because we have a facility for animals post security. So that's a good thing. Hopefully fewer accidents in
Yeah.
the terminal with people and their pets.
Yeah. Good. Okay, the last thing I'll say is that we're optimistic and we've made plans to travel to Calgary, Canada for to see our grandchildren for the first time in 2 years over the holidays. So we'll see how that goes. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Wilson.
We talk a lot about airport facilities here, but just to bring everybody's attention in the Treasure Valley, excuse me, the Nampa and Caldwell Airport are super busy. And I know they had a meeting yesterday about some air traffic control changes. And I know that the Boise Airport air traffic control was included. I just want to make sure that they all have good communication. I think that they are, but we have partners in the Treasure Valley that we also need to stay in good communication with. It's really busy out there. The air traffic control in Boise is at capacity. They're doing a good job, but I just want to make sure that the FAA is staffing on the air traffic side as well as we grow. There's a lot of frantic calls out there at peak times in the air. And I know that Nampa and Caldwell is doing a good job of trying to make sure that we stay safe. But if there's something that you, Rebecca, if you hear about or something from the ATC side or FAA side, just to make sure we're all keeping in communication with the airports in Treasure Valley too.
Writing myself a note. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Westerberg.
Well, kind of picking up what Jamie said. One runway operating with Runway at the time that we're experiencing rapid growth in the use of the airport does have its challenges. And I'd like to commend our employees for their efforts to deal with that. And this, I'll give a shout out to ATC. They're doing the level best too. And thankfully, with the cooperation of General Aviation and everybody else, we're managing, but it'll be nice when we're back to a full service airport and have both runways open.
It will be. It'll be nice to have the new infrastructure too, the new pavement. Yeah, it's definitely a challenge and we see it. It's the same as, construction any other place. We're doing it because it needs to be done. But the time to do it is when we have good weather, which is the time that, of course, everybody wants to be out flying. So I have not solved that puzzle yet, Russ.
Work on it.
I was gonna say, but if you have suggestions, the $1 million answer there.
Thank you, Councilwoman Clegg.
Well, thank you. I still have not traveled myself, but my daughter and her husband and 4 kids took a quick trip down to the LA area this week, and they were able to get in and out very easily. I asked them. It was a great experience. So things are still working well, even with the heightened concern about COVID again. I look forward, hopefully, this fall to taking my first flight. And so just really happy to see some of these infrastructure projects get done. I think that we're on a trajectory that's not going to slow down much, and the more we can provide infrastructure, the better off we're going to be when things really open up again.
Thank you for that. And I would just add the infrastructure that we're adding, it takes years to add. So the timeline for that public parking garage is 18 months.
Yeah, right.
So.
Yeah, therein lies the challenge as well of not lagging our staff so that I'm going to ring the bell again. I'm just really concerned, as I raised the same issue 3 years ago, that we not react, that we are proactive in understanding not only the design and organization structure, but how are we confident that we're competitive with the marketplace so that we don't become the feeder airport for larger airports to train people and only to see them leave. So, as organizations grow, and this airport is, certainly has probably seen such significant growth, at least, I've been on the commission now for, I can't remember how long.
Longer than I've been here,
15
so
years,
more
I
than a
don't know.
decade.
It's much, much different for sure, and really important that we stay in front of it, so we
Thank you.
don't fall down in all the areas that you all do so well at. So I am actually taking a short flight to Denver, turn around, sadly, to go to a celebration of life for a colleague I worked with at Ore Foods for many, many years, who is only 67 years old. Well, hopefully it'll be an easy trip, and that will be my first flight for some time. All right, moving on. I see we have no new business?
No new business.
Okay, so at this point, we can open up to the general public, questions and answers for the commission and staff. Just a reminder that each topic takes about 5 minutes. We have kind of a 5-minute limit on open discussions and questions from the public. Do we have anybody interested in speaking with us today? Yes? Please stand up, come to the podium, introduce yourself.
I'm Untitled Chapter. I'm with Precision Propellant, Boise. And mine was more of a thanks. Amy, Rebecca have been really helping out quite a bit. I know you guys are so busy with everything else. Small businesses kind of, I understand we're such a small part, and it's kind of on the back burner, and you guys have so much going on. I really appreciate your time. I really appreciate what you guys do to help us out, and just to be a reminder that there are small businesses out there, and there's still empty lots, and that little barrier to get into Boise is a little more difficult than Nampa and Caldwell. And that's why you see such explosion in small businesses out there. And I understand Boise Airport's focus is being the international airport, and I totally 100% understand that. Just want to be a reminder that you guys have the ability to help out small businesses in the area. We do appreciate it when you do. And I know it takes more time than it's worth with such small projects, but appreciate it, and just be a reminder that we're out there.
Would you mind just summarizing? I know you came to us a few months ago, and I know that things have happened, but just tell for everybody else who hasn't read it, what your resolution is.
So just longer lease agreements for lending institutions to look at. That's such a big help, and that's such a barrier to come into a Boise airport area, is that lease agreement terms if you're not a cash person, and so it really creates a barrier for anyone that doesn't hold enormous amounts of cash, or corporate America, so the small business, they really rely on local banks, and the banks really need to look at lease agreement terms, and they need some skin in the game, and so being flexible is awesome. So I really appreciate what your staff's doing, and just a reminder, like, I'm not the only one that needs that, and that's why there's still some empty lots next to me. Like, it's just needed in the community, that flexibility, and so appreciate that.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Yes.
So I would just like to introduce myself. My name is Brianna LeClaire, and I'm the new general manager at Ponderosa Aero Club. I have deep roots in Idaho aviation. My parents came to Boise in 1966, where they were colleagues, and then husband and wife from Beechcraft in Wichita. And they were told by Beech that they could open a Beechcraft dealership in either Scottsdale, Arizona, or Jackson, Wyoming, or Boise, Idaho. And they picked Boise. And that's why my brother and I were lucky enough to be born and raised here. They had Idaho Beechcraft on the south side of the airport. I don't know which hangar it was. It was either the Simplot hangar or the other one next to it that looks just like it. My dad and his business partners bought Boise Air Service in 1983. and then sold it to Jackson Jet Center in, I want to say 2008. After it, of course, moved where Boise Air Service is now. It was at 3200 Airport Way, which of course no longer exists. And I learned to fly as a teenager. My mother was on the airport commission in the 70s and 80s. She was my flight instructor. Janora Jessen is her name. She's downstairs in the Aviation Hall of Fame. And anyway, so I have done a bunch of other things. My family, we came back. I'm a Boise boomerang. I, was born and raised, left and came back, lived elsewhere, found out Boise wasn't a terrible place after all and came back. And anyway, so I had the privilege at one point in my career to work for the late great Ed Stimson for the General Aviation Manufacturers Association. And that was a great experience. So I'm excited to be back in GA. And so I hope that Ponderosa can continue to be a great partner, not just in general aviation, but for the airport generally. So thank you.
Great, well, welcome. Thank you very much for being here. Do we have any Zoom or other calls out there? Anybody asking?
I am not seeing anyone asking to speak. So I think that concludes our public session. We do have a couple of items for executive session.
Right.
So if our panel members, Mayor Nancolis and Bill Vasconcelos, can stay on the line, we will close the public session of the Zoom meeting and we'll excuse the public, and our staff can stay because they work with us on these items, and then we'll go into
Thank you.
executive session. And I believe, Madam Chair, you need a motion to go into executive session.
Madam Chairman, in order to consider subjects exempt from disclosure under the Idaho Public Records Act, I now move that the commission resolve itself into executive session.
Second.
I second. Roll call.
Roll
vote.
call.
Carlson,
Yes.
Vasconcelos.
You did say yes.
Sorry. Boesiger. Here. Nancolis,
Yes.
Westerberg,
Yes.
Very good.
and is there a way to confirm that we're off the public section of the Zoom meeting?
Okay, I will ask our IT office to confirm that we are off public session.